my name is Wolfgang Carstens. Welcome to Poets Underground, a poetry show that celebrates and showcases the best and the brightest authors currently working the marrow of contemporary poetry. My guest today, joining us live via satellite from Grass Valley, California, is master of the short poem, Mr. Bill Gaynor. Mr. Gaynor's books include Roxy, To Run with the Savages, Joining the Demented, The Mysterious Woman Next Door, A Note in the Window, The Fine Art of Poisoning, and most recently, Louisiana Calling. Bill, it's a pleasure to welcome you to Poets Underground.
Well, thanks for having me, man. It's a little early in the day for this old man, though, you know. We had Thanksgiving yesterday, and I was up a little late. But anyway, thanks for having me, man.
Excellent. How are things out there in Grass Valley?
It's halfway warm today for a change. It gets cold at night right now. It's that time of year, you know.
Right on.
No snow yet, though.
Oh, well, you're lucky. We're buried in snow out here.
I hate it.
Well, you know, I got a question for you. You've talked a lot about the role of the poet. Now I want to ask you, what in your opinion is the role of the poet regarding subject matter and off the page as a representative of the genre?
Yeah, that's kind of a mixed bag for me because I think that the bottom line is us as writers, as poets, as journalists, as whatever, novelists, you know, the pen guys, our responsibility is to the word, you know, not to the politics or any of the other kind of stuff. So, you know, poets, we deal with emotions. So it's not my responsibility or my business to tell you what's going on in the world. You know, my responsibility is to tell you how I feel about it. And hopefully we can ring bells with each other. We can connect, you know. This old Lou Welsh used to have a thing, and I forget exactly how it was, but he called it the invisible hand. I don't know if you can see my hands or not. When you lay one on top of the other, you have one shadow. And so it becomes your responsibility as the writer to say what you have to say without explanation. And then when you turn over, you still only have one shadow. So it becomes your responsibility as the audience to interpret what has been said without explanation. So then we have a responsibility to each other. As far as the political side of it and all that stuff, you know, it's the only responsibility we have is to weep. We can't go out and change the world. This idea that we're going to change the world or whatever, I don't know whoever came up with that, but I think they were some far-fetched ideas and way off base. You know, the political poems, there's a few guys that write them, and write them well. Most people don't. They just regurgitate what's going on in the newspaper, you know, dead, burnt bodies with teeth falling out, you know, and okay, whatever. But our responsibility is to the page, to the word, to the stage. We have a big responsibility. And when we step on the stage, you know, we've talked before, you and I, about, in my mind, you know, my heart, not everybody's heart, we all have different opinions, but I'm there to entertain you. I'm there essentially to help you waste your time. And with any luck, you'll leave with some value added. But most times not. You'll leave and say, geez, I really enjoyed that night. And you probably won't remember much of what really happened besides you had a good time. That's all we can ask, you know.
Now, you know, a good question here. Now, you are the master of the short poem, and I mean, I give you credit for that. I love your work. I love how you can just get in and get out and get the job done. Now, with the short poem, you say, learn to write the short poem, something that you can read while falling from a 10-story building. And you also mention that the short poem is the best way to convey an emotion or a feeling. And I want to ask you, why is that? Why is the short poem the best medium to convey what you need to do?
Short poem, like I said, it's the most difficult poem to write, you know. And to say that I'm the master, there's lots of masters, you know. Richard Brodigan has always been my favorite. There's a guy up here in my country called named Steve Sanfield. You ever have the opportunity to read his stuff or hear his stuff? He's getting a little older now, and he's like the rest of us. He's not traveling as much as he used to, but he has some wonderful, wonderful stuff. So check him out too, Steve Sanfield. But the short you deal with the short poem, you got to get in and out quickly. It has to be more than just a journal entry. You know, I don't care if you went to the store. I want to know what happened at the store, on the trip. I want to feel that emotion that you experienced. So it's real tough, and it takes a lot of thought. You know, with a longer poem, you can essentially write out that thought, carry it all out, paint that picture. With a shorter poem, you have a short little time to do it. And sometimes it can be very difficult. Sometimes they just pop right in place. You know, but most of the time they're a tough poem to write. People think they're easy, and then when you sit down and actually read them, they just turn out to be journal entries. There's not much there. It's funny because I have most of the longer poems today.
Oh, yeah?
Full of stuff, yeah. Anyway, we can go forward.
You know, I want to ask you, what elements are coming into play in the short poem to make it work? Like I know John Yammers, who's on the program, he mentioned how the reader needs to get involved to make the poem really work. So for your poems to work, what elements need to come into play? Like, what are the elements in an essential Bill Gaynor poem?
The number one element for me always is clarity. Okay? So, you know, I have a responsibility to, if I'm going to tell you something, you know, if I'm going to share an emotion with you, I have a responsibility to make that happen quickly and clearly. My thing isn't to send you home thinking about something for 3 weeks and then finally get it. You know? No, this stuff is, we live in the moment, you know. That's why I write a lot of things about time. And we live in these moments, these little fractions of time. Boom, 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 boom. And for some people, they all add up to something big. But for most of us, it's just, here's a moment, we're moving on to the next one, and the next one, and the next one. You know, you as a parent, big game. You know, you're dealing with one child, 2 seconds later you're dealing with another child, and you're mixing all those different emotions that are coming at you from all these different people, and you're trying to decipher what's happening. You're not going to wait 3 weeks to give those kids an answer. You're going to respond right now because you feel what they're feeling, or you hope you do. So that's kind of where we're at. It's not to say that the audience are children. They're not. You know, they're grown adults, and we have to respect that. But the clarity, I think, is a definite responsibility of all of us as writers to be as clear as we can, as direct as we can. You know, it's funny because even the interpretation of some of this stuff, you know, people say, Jesus Christ, those metaphors are great. 99% of us don't write in metaphors. We write in similes, you know. You know, how does it go? The metaphor is my love is a red, red rose, is a red, red rose. The simile is my love is like a red, red rose. So most of the time when we're making a reference to something in poetry, you hear that like in there someplace. It is the same as. It isn't is. So be clear. Right. You know, and that can be a tough deal too.
Right, absolutely. Well, you know, here on Poets Underground, we love poetry. We love lots of poetry. Bill, if you wouldn't mind, why don't you show us that clarity and go ahead and drop some grenades on us here. You have 15 minutes. The stage is yours. Ladies and gentlemen, Mr. Bill Gaynor.
Okay, I'm going to read some longer ones, some shorter ones. I'm going to mix it up today. A lot of these are older stuff, too, that been kicking around here for a while. They're in this book or that book, and hell, I can't tell you which book, you know. But they've all been stuff we've had fun with over the years. Here's one called Love Stories and Train Wrecks. And this is a kind of a true story from an old friend of mine. You've heard me mention it before, Todd Cirillo. He's a young guy. He's moved back to New Orleans, and he's having a good time back there. But his love life truly is a train wreck, you know. So here we go. Love Stories and Train Wrecks. He tells me about his ex-girlfriend and how she's driving him crazy. Says she drives by his house in the middle of the night and yells obscenities out the car window. Throws empty beer cans on his lawn, calls him names he's never heard before. The neighbors are starting to complain. He says he thinks she's having sex with his friends and wants to know if I know anything about it. He wants to know what it is, why she does this, how do I make it stop? I don't know. It could be a love story or it could be a train wreck. I've bought tickets to both. The difference difference is, with the train wreck you wish you never would have got on, and with a love story you wish you never would have got off. And that's about as sweet as it gets. Because the reality is, she probably thinks you're a prick. And she's had enough of your crap. For 18 months she's listened to your goof poems, waiting for you to come home late, drunk, and wash other women's perfume out of your shirts. Yeah, it's love stories and train wrecks, and you never should have pissed her off. Because it's passion driving this thing now. As far as she's concerned, it can drive you straight to hell. You might as well start praying to Satan, because Jesus can't help you now. Yeah, it's love stories and train wrecks. Train wrecks. And you bought a ticket too. There you go.
Right on.
A little longer piece, older. The night shift, I was thinking about this. Jesus Christ, this guy wants to do this thing at 10 o'clock in the morning, man. This is an old poem too, the night shift. I do the long hours, no applause, not even a morning smile. They used to save me a seat down at the Silver Dollar Club. 6 in the morning, a guy could get a little something to warm him. It's closed now, reopened as a jazz lounge. Starts serving after 5 p.m. Sticky imports and pricey microbrews. They got a dress code. I buy half pints at the mini mart. Sit in the truck and listen to Marrow. Hope they don't call me in early. There you go. Nothing, baby. This is an old piece. Nothing, baby. You know, when you're dealing with this racket, and I'm sure you found out, you know, it's like the musicians and the poets, man, are the worst people to deal with. These egos are crazy, you know, they're nuts. This is nothing, baby. I used to hear this all the time. Nothing, baby, nothing. Nothing bad, nothing good. He said nothing, nothing, baby. I get the feeling there's a little friction between you, though. It's the way you quiver when he's around. It's not a love, though. That's a different kind of quiver. It looks more like you got that trying to hold the meanness back kind of quiver. I do hope you get past it without causing too much pain. If not, let me know when the bloodletting's done. We can get together, spend a little time, have a cold drink, talk. It'll be nice. Just you, me, and the scars. There you go. Another true story. I'm one of those guys that collect things in places, you know. Those obsessions. Obsessions of observations of an obsessive compulsive. The funeral went good, but at the cemetery it was maddening. A jumble of headstones, nothing in alphabetical order. I suspect I was the only one to notice. There you go. I'm getting up there in age, you know. I got a lot of old friends, you know, old traveling partners, the guys I run with. One of them lives up north there on the coast out here of Washington, Oregon. Great writer. He kind of thinks I don't like his poems right now because I don't like that he uses that and sign, you know. And write it out for Christ's sake, you know. Fuck you, he says. But anyway, so he used to suggest poems and stuff to me. So this is for him. A little short poem. I'm not gonna tell you who he is. On his 72nd birthday, I realized all the poets he recommends are dead. There you go. Old movies. Last night, old movies, romance, 40 style. Pepper, Myrna, Greta, hooded glances, cigarette smoke, lipstick lips, kissed cocktail glasses. Images so clear that when they step on the screen, you can smell the perfume. Whispers you wish. Move over. No, closer. And like Garfield, in from the chill of the Frisco fog, you watch the flare of a lit match, pull on your last lucky strike, wait for the phone to ring. 2, maybe 3 times. Not too fast, hold back, just a little. You don't want her to know that it's those soft voices in the night that make the wait worth waiting. It's 2 in the morning, another old movie. You're thinking Bogart, hoping there's another Bacall waiting to drop a nickel in the slot and just call. Love poems, man. Love poems. Oh, another short poem, kind of about love and about all this stuff, you know, about world peace and everything. You can interpret it any way you want, but it's actually a little deeper than what you think it is, I think. It's called Looking at the Moon Alone. How much is lost before realizing there's no victory in being the last to weep? Looking for tomorrow. Another one of those little rundown poems. I like those sometimes. Looking for tomorrow. Windshield dirty truck pushing through time. Hitchhikers with signs needing to be someplace else. This is not a rescue, it's an escape. They can find their own way. The gas gauge says go, so we go. You can jump in here anytime, man.
I love it, man. I love it.
Memories of a romance gone away. Another one of those kind of things you feel, touchy-feely. Memories of a romance go away. I love how your perfume is there to greet me, even if you're not. Try that one on your wife tonight. Yeah. Morning promises. These are us old guys, man. The words fall from old angels. They're stepped over like the debris of 2 tired storms. And as the winds chase, I find myself becoming the one I've been waiting for. Who would have known it was me? Age is an evil bastard. He's kept me here far too long, become a habit. Tonight I'm tired. I keep 2 coins on the nightstand, should the morning forget the promise. Never with wishes. We're talking about age and dying and just getting old and people wanting me to do stuff. I got a bunch of kids your age, you know, and they're all talking, hey, you need to get your estate in order. So they made a plan for me to go talk to an attorney. I thought it went great. The attorney, not so much. The kids, this is the poem that came out of it. Never with wishes. It appears the attorneys feel it's very important to know what to do when you're done. They set up an appointment, called me in, asked the questions. It was a middle-aged woman. I told her I don't care. She insisted that people need to know what my wishes are, what to do with my remains, how to dispose of my assets. I told her when I'm done, I'm done. It's someone else's problem. She insisted that I must have given it some thought. I said, maybe a little. She said, there you go, what is it? I told her, rather than using embalming fluid, I'd like them to load me up with gasoline. Tell the guy running the crematorium to stand back when he throws the match. I want to go off like a Roman candle. Shoot flame, pieces of flesh, hair, bone, and eyeball through 200 feet in the air. I want the morning headlines to read, his cremation didn't go well. But we'll know the truth, you and me won't be. She clicked her ballpoint, flipped a page on her yellow notepad, and with a blank stare said, you gotta be kidding. I told her, never with wishes, kid, never with wishes.
Love it.
She wasn't too happy that day.
You know, I want to ask you, as far as your work goes and the evolution of your work, who is the ideal
Well, you broke up there a little bit, man. I didn't catch it.
I was going to ask you, who is the ideal audience for your work And what do you hope readers take away from your books?
You know, I hope they take a little piece of what was going on in my mind when I wrote the poem, you know, in my life. Because, you know, we all tend to, I don't think we're all that much different. You know, I think we all have these crazy things going around us in our lives. And most people, I have the suspicion that that kind of stuff annoys them, you know. And me in my life, I enjoy it, you know. And I remember those things because they stay with you, you know. Well, today didn't go too well, but it did for me, you know.
Right.
So it's kind of like, yeah, with my books, I enjoy people getting the books. And often I feel that books anymore, you know, me, especially me being in the literary world, and me, you know, I got a little publishing company I work with too, you know, R.L. Crow. And we've been doing some experiments. That's kind of what those last two little books are, the Red Alice books. And they, my thought is that we echo what's going on in the music industry. The music industry, the folks used to put out an album and then do a tour to support the album. Nowadays, they do a tour and put out an album to support the tour. And I think we need to address it that way too. And I think one of the things we need to really consider is trying to keep whatever we have on the swag table cheap. In other words, the cheapest thing on the table is probably what's going to sell. And what we found at Red Alice with the fine art of poisoning and a note in the window is that's true. Note in the window, I went out and really worked that for a couple of years, and we sold tons of those, you know. And the fine art of poisoning is doing real well right now too. It's going into its second premiere, and we expect that to happen more. So.
Excellent.
Anyway, so that's kind of what I see with my books. I think it's a piece of memorabilia for you to take home, something for you to sit up late at night before you're going to sleep and drinking coffee, drinking your booze, and having a an enjoyable evening and relaxing. And you think, yeah, I remember that day.
Right.
That's all.
You know, I had a question, and you've kind of your answer there is kind of made me rethink it. But I was going to ask you. As far as a poetry book, a lot of your poems are short. A lot of your poetry books are short, which I love personally. I love something you can read in one sitting and get that emotion and sit back and reflect on it. Kind of like what you were saying about you don't want the poem to hit 3 weeks later. You want it to hit right now. Now, is that intentional as far as, do you have an ideal book length, in your opinion, for a poetry book?
I kind of do, man. You know, my idea with a book length is something you can read on the airplane. And when you get off, you're done. So you can leave it on the airplane for the next guy. And hopefully the stewards, well, they don't call them stewardess anymore, than whatever they call them now, they don't pick it up and throw it away. But if you stick it in a little thing behind the seat, maybe somebody else will find it and enjoy it as well. So that's kind of what I think about that. You know, I'm thinking, my thing is, I don't like those big monster books. I don't like books that become assignments to read, okay? A lot of my friends, they do their collected poems, and hell, they become doorstops, These big, monstrous, 1,200-page jobs, And my thing is, if you get 88 pages, 100 pages, on something under 120 pages, as long as they can put something down the spine, you're good, Stay in that area, and I think you're going to find more people grab them off the shelf than these big things. What you do is I love, your press is does kind of a shorter page run, and I think it's wonderful. I think it's comfortable. I like to stay beyond the 50-page, and then under the 100-page or in the 100-page range, I think it makes for a nice size book. And I recommend, other publishers ask me to talk to me about that, and that's what I recommend,
Right.
120 pages maybe up to the max.
It's interesting you say that, because I found, I've done some longer books, and then I went to the shorter books. I find 43 poems, roughly around, 55, 60 pages is just perfect.
Yeah.
And it's something you can read in one sitting, and you get that jumpstart the heart of a dead man feeling,
Yeah. Well, most of the books we do, like at R.L. Crowe, the whole thing is 88 pages. That's counting the fluff. So we might go 62 pages and there's just fluff.
Right.
That's the copyright page, the title page, the author's page, all that kind of stuff. Or we might go 72 pages, Or we might go 78 pages, because you figure 10 to 12 pages of fluff, maybe a couple blank. That's the other problem. I think a lot of people, they're looking at the dollars and cents and they don't want to burn a blank page. Why not? Why not? It helps the mechanics of the book, makes it work, makes it look nicer. Do it.
Absolutely. Well, our mutual friend, Artie Armstrong, once said that, the exterior of the book and all the fluff, it's the vehicle to deliver the content inside, and that's just as important as the content inside. You don't want to pull up to the curb on a beat-down mini bike. You want to show up in a Cadillac. And what I love about the Red Alice books is those are gorgeous. They're absolutely gorgeous, and they invite you to pick them up,
Yeah.
So kudos to that. And I want to tell you, my friend, I love your poetry. I love your books. And, I have an open invitation for you. You have 43 new poems. I would love to put it out through Epic Press. Sure. Open invitation, my friend.
Well, good. Thank you so much. Let's talk about that later.
All right. It's
Not
a deal.
Today, but maybe later in the week or something.
All right. It's a deal. I still, we still have some time here. I would love for you to give us a few more short bursts.
Well, let me see what we got. Well, I got a couple of short ones and then a longer one here. I got the wrong side of dirt. This is some of these poems, There's the hearts don't always break. The x-rays were negative, nothing broken. But still, you could put your fingers in the bullet holes, both sides. There you go.
Love it.
Let's see what we got. I'll put a little longer one. Here's an old poem, we're doing death and dying, and then we'll do some shorter ones, it looks like. It's a little long. This is an old poem, been around a long time. It's been printed a few times. It was Convergence Magazine's Poem of the Month here, way back when. It's a true story about a dear friend of mine. It's called The Wrong Side of Dirt. Visited an old friend, Bob, was glad to see that someone, probably his sister, the one from up in Reno, had finally placed a headstone. After wiping the snow and reading the inscription, James Robbins Gardner, Bob, an extraordinary artist, a creative thinker. March 1951, April 21, 205. I thought, this is it, huh? The guy was once somebody. He won one of the big ones, an Academy Award, way back when, for a stop animation short film thing he did in college. I heard it was downhill from there. That his world was an alien place. It didn't love him as much as we did. His sister said he took the dark way out. A piece of rope, a rented room, the city cops pushing in the door, him hanging there, done. She said because of the way he left, the priest wouldn't bury him. So they did some kind of Indian thing, burnt some sage, banged on some drums, chanted something that meant something to somebody, who knows. After all the crap, the craziness, the booze, the dope, the good times, the bad, the women, the fighting, the falling in love, I always loved the falling in love. Even the meds. Yeah, they put you on the meds when they think you've gone a little goofy. After it all, here I am, an old man, standing in the snow talking to an old friend who's long gone, wondering which one of us is truly on the wrong side of the dirt.
Love it.
There you go.
Love it.
There you go.
I have a couple questions here. As far as reading goes, if I were to describe your reading, you have style, you're very entertaining, and what I love, going back to talking about Bukowski, and I know how they did his last reading, and they cut out all the in-between stuff that made it also interesting. As a very respected and sought-after reader, What advice do you have for any inexperienced author going up and giving a reading?
Well, you know, you read my little poem, I don't even know where the hell it's at, you know, the advice from a cynical soul.
Right.
Yeah, that's kind of it, man. You gotta, if you want to be a writer, you want to be a performer, you gotta kind of do two things. You gotta read everybody's stuff, even though you don't like it all. And you gotta go to a lot of readings, man. Listen to it all and see what works. And then sooner or later, you gotta get the courage to step up there, you know? Let them take their shots at you. I always, when I do a reading, I invite the audience to be part of it. My thought is, it's not a show until you're part of the show. In that meeting, I'm open to banter, heckling, whatever. There's just one rule. Actually, there's two rules. No bloodletting, and if you get the heckle, I do too. So, you know, it's a shared thing. But it's not really a show till everybody's part of it. I mean, you didn't come out just to sit there, you know, warm somebody else's chair, for Christ's sakes, you know. You came out to take ownership to a piece of time, you know, so enjoy. And I think that's really a big part of it, you know, enjoying the people in the audience, having fun with them, and letting them have fun with you as well. You know? Right. And, you know, I have a reputation, you know, it's, I get a kick out of it, because often I'll tell audiences, especially if I don't know them, you're going to hear two kinds of poems tonight, you know. You're going to hear the ah poems. When I read them, you go ah. And if you don't, I'll remind you, you know. Or you're going to hear the dirty bastard poems. When I'm reading, it's okay for you just to yell out, you dirty bastard. And often that happens a lot, you know, and we have a good time with that. And even when the poem's not supposed to be a dirty bastard, I'm just talking, you know, somebody will say, you dirty bastard. Or sometimes what happens is the next reader, they start yelling out, you dirty bastard, to them, you know, and they're going, oh shit, what happened here? But that's what it's all about, you know, just having some fun. We went out, just, you know, to help each other, waste each other's time, and enjoy some time together, enjoy the evening together. Today, enjoying the morning together, you know.
Right.
But that's kind of what it's about, you know. Don't be afraid of them, you know. They're just as much afraid of you, you know. So go out there and just enjoy the moment, man. Right. Enjoy the moment.
Right. Excellent.
That's right.
You know, Bill, thank you so much for being on Poets Underground today. It's been an absolute pleasure, man.
Well, thank you for having me, man.
You know, and I got to say, anyone who wants to know more about Bill Gaynor can check him out online at www.billgaynor.com. All of his books, or most of them anywhere, available on Amazon.com. If not, check the publisher's website. I hope you had a good time. I had a good time. I hope you'll join me next time when my guest will be Mr. Rob Plath. Bill, there you go. Thank you, Bill. It's been a pleasure, my friend. Enjoy the rest of your day.
Thank you. We'll talk later. You guys be safe out there.
You too, my friend.